Good evening, everybody. It's a rough road I'm on. Finished the weekend, had a good holiday with my daughters. My youngest wants to pursue geology, and my oldest wants to get into computer graphics and animation. So I got my work cut out for me as they enter high school, while one's in her last year of high school. This is an explosive video. Explosive. Over the weekend, I had lots of comments and a lot of trolls. A lot of people come on. They don't understand what I'm talking about, or they're there with their propaganda, with their narrative, especially the worst being the Commonwealth. How ignorant people are. And folks, I've been on a 5-year journey, 3 full years just in the last 3 in world academia. You could say in some ways I would be a globalist of knowledge, I guess, but not in the exploitation of the people. In fact, I pursue the opposite of that. I pursue constitutionalism, which starts with religion. It starts with historical texts, the oldest being the Quran and the Jewish text. Sorry, it's a rough road here. Rural Alberta, and technically I'm still in the city of Edmonton, but it's the worst road. It borders on a reserve Enoch, and it's probably the worst road in Alberta. Worst road. They make it that way. Three texts that start with constitutionalism. Jewish text, Muslim text, Christian text. They all share 3 things in common. One thing in common is the 10 Commandments. Moses is shared. He's shared in all three divine religions, with different narratives, different beliefs in the Almighty. One believes in Jesus Christ. Another believes in the Prophet Muhammad. Another believes the coming of a Savior, a Christ, so to speak. But of that is constitutionalism. Wow, this road is so bad. I have a full-size truck with air suspension, and I tell you, makes me laugh how pathetic our country really is. Those 3 texts, worshipped, followed, sworn by a swath of the global population. They believe it, they swear by it, they say that is the truth, the light, the way. 3 main religions all share the 10 Commandments, which is the religious constitution. The first written word, Constitution. When I talk about constitutionalism, it starts there with religion. Organized religion, 10 Commandments, the first written word, constitutionalism, followed by most of the world's population, by a vast majority of the world's population. Judaism, Islamism, Christianity, all swear by it. they follow those 10 commandments. They say that's the absolute, that's the written law of God. It's also the basis of constitutionalism. You start there. We get into constitutionalism in the Western society. There are 2 countries in this world. Only 2. There's 7 in total, but 2 main countries took that 10 Commandments and they wrote their societies into laws federally and regionally, and they made laws that can't be overstepped, give rules of governance, how to govern, and absolute accountability of men and women should they choose to lead or take those positions. They must follow on the basis of religion. They adopt, those 2 countries adopt 2 religions, but they go a step further and they constitutionalize, as the Bible did, they constitutionalize written rules of governance, how to govern, and accountability of men and women over other men and women. They say that all men and women are created equal, and before this law enshrined and bound by men and women are these rules that men must follow, and they are not, I repeat, they are not above any God. Now that's just Russia and USA. There are 5 other countries that closely resemble them, but not entirely. It shows because they're relatively weak globally. Get into a global world, a world of empires, autocracies, tyrants, dictators. We find that those biblical teachings from the 3 main religions in the world today, they dwarf everybody else. They're constitutionally bound with the 10 Commandments. Every other country in the world doesn't follow the 10 Commandments. No, they don't. And folks, I'm going to tell you, when you go through world academia, find out real fast, they don't. My country, Canada, doesn't. In fact, they spit on the 10 Commandments. They say, you know what? We're going to break the first commandment. We're going to enshrine a divine set of people. We're going to call that kings, queens. We're going to call that divine people over a mass of people. And forever and a day, many countries, British Empire, French Empire, Portuguese Empire, Spanish Empire, German Empire, Denmark Empire, Japanese Empire, they swore that this was the truth, the way. We had emperors all over the world, China, India, we can go on and on and on through Africa, tribal chieftains. Everybody swore by the idea that men could rule over other men. Women could rule over men and women, or women entirely, in divinity. That they were gods. Well, this flew in the face of the 10 Commandments. It said there's a divine God and it's not a man. It's not a woman. It's a higher power. And they defined that higher power. They said you will never ever make any other false idol before that divine power. But yet, today, 193 nations in the world, and 188 of them do exactly that. My country, Canada, has crown customary law at its core. It uses the title published for all Canadians in the Commonwealth. It's published Honorable, the Right Honorable, the Honor, Honors Honorable, and so forth. That's the written word. Now people ask me, Dave, where's all these things written about divinity of your politicians? Well, that's just it, folks. It's called customary law. Customary law is unwritten law, spoken, not written. The First Peoples, for example, are entirely customary law. They do song and smudge, ceremony and song, but they never write their laws out. It's all customary, handed down in stories. Well, in Canada, through the British Empire and the French Empire and all other colonials, they do the same thing, at least for their hierarchy. It's all customary law. Law that isn't written, but it's drawn, it's articulated, and never ever written. It's kept in behind the scenes. It's drawn, it's hieroglyphic, but it's never written in text. People say, well, how do you prove it? Well, visually, of course. For example, if you go to the city of Quebec City, oldest city in Canada, crown colonial city, you go to the Parliament of Quebec, you go look at that, and they have it articulated in hieroglyphics, same as Egypt. Egypt did the same thing. Not to be written, but to be mastered and handed down, to be spoken of behind the scenes. Never written, drawn, articulated, taught to those who are of the higher class. And folks, before you say, well, who cares about French? English came from French. In fact, our modern English language, shared by the United States of America, not articulated the same way, an abandonment of customary law. In fact, they abandoned it in the War of Independence, but not Canada, and not many other English-speaking societies today. In fact, folks, 500 years ago, the first ever published written language English modern was done. And it was done, if anyone doesn't know, if no one ever had the privy of a primary education, you'd know that William Shakespeare was the first to publish in English. In fact, he translated much from French, because French was the only published language. In fact, outside of the United States of America, modern English, all other countries associated with English outside of the United States of America have French legal systems enshrined internationally in law, which USA will not sign on to any. Zero. We talk about the United Nations Permanent 5 Security Council members. You'll find USA from the War of Independence and enshrined post-World War II. USA refuses absolutely to enshrine any French international laws. bound and enshrined from the League of Nations, adopted by the United Kingdom. Corporate laws adopted by the United Kingdom, entirely written in French, because UK will not abandon the monarchy and remains in that society. In fact, all of the colonial countries do, if they're English speaking, or in fact if they're French speaking. All French countries in the world adopt all the same legal systems. It's a matter of French law, which is credit law, and then there's English, which adopts another set of laws, all based in French, all written in French, all of them traced to French. English only been around for 500 years. All of our entire first class is in customary law. Zero of it written. All drawn out for all of you. Justin Trudeau works very hard right now to erase it all in our federal parliament. You'll find it in Australia in their parliament. You'll find it in New Zealand. You'll find it in many of the Commonwealth countries. And you'll still find it in Quebec City. If you ever want to know where I come up with all of my narratives on honorary, honorable, and everything else, it's only by one video inside those first class circles at the municipal, provincial, and federal levels. I have over 200 hours of absolute video where you will watch the customary law enact itself, taught from police all the way up to all levels of government. You will see honorary, honorable, the honors honorable. You will see them all enacted as worship, my Lord, my Majesty, your Majesty, and on and on and on. It never ends, folks. It never ends. The class structure, not written, but only in French. You will find it, and you will find that's the basis of all corporate law in Canada and all through the Commonwealth, where they enshrine what is a domestic business, a peasant, a second-class citizen. You will learn about the peasant outside of business, which is the third class, the working Joe Jane. And you will find the savage, which is universal across every country that those societies have interfaced with. Inside their privy, their councils, their legislatures, you will find all the words of my Lord, my Majesty, your Majesty, your Highness, your Highness. All these words, biblical and anti-Judean, anti-Christian, and anti-Muslim. In fact, they're articulated very well in the shared Old Testaments across 65% of the religious world today. That in those times, Old Testament leading up to Jesus Christ, those words are not to be used to ever revere any human being, none whatsoever. In fact, that's a breach of the oldest Constitution, the Old Testament Constitution, the 10 Commandments, which are absolute in Muslim, absolute in the Judeans, and absolute in the Christians. Now you can say there's a God or there's not a God. You can say the Prophet Muhammad had the way. You could say the Prophet Moses had the way. You can say Jesus Christ was the Son of God. He had the way. It's really up to you. It's really up to you to believe what you want to believe. I don't tell people what to believe. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in rules of governance, how to govern, and absolutely accountability. I don't believe in the divinity of another human being over another human being. I don't believe in class. I don't believe that there are advanced human beings and less advanced human beings. I believe we're all born equal. We have the ability to be equal. We have the ability to generate great works. We have the ability to generate good, and we have the ability to generate pure evil. People should have the right to choose their path. There should be rules of how you go about your path. There should be rules, accountability, and absolutely rules of how to govern. It is proven constitutionalism throughout human evolution, human history, has always proven to be effective. How we go about that, how we get that done, only grows as we grow as a civilization. We need that today. Monarchies, empires, divinity of human beings must go out the window. Doesn't belong in today's era. People are reaching out for something that's going to work for everybody. Well, that's easy. It's constitutionalism. If you ever want to see the best form of constitutionalism, you will find it in the Federation of Russia and